Thank you very much for taking time to come and chat with us today about our incentive programs. We're really excited to put this together. We actually had a session planned in person for March that we had to cancel due to COVID-19. So we're pivoting. It took us a little bit longer than we'd have hoped to get this together, but we wanted to make sure that we could do it well. All right, it looks like we've got about 20 people here, so that's great. We had about 50 registered, so I'm gonna give it one more minute before we get started. I hope you guys are all doing well. I know this is a really difficult time for some more than others, and if you're struggling, just know that there are lots of people out there that care, and you know, folks that are here to help, and you can always give us a call and ask us questions, or you know, there's tons of tools and tips and information. Connect with us on social media. Those of you that are on the phone, if anyone is on the phone, if you have any questions during the webinar, you can email outreach@dwa.org with your questions. Or if you're having any tech support issues, outreach@dwa.org would be great, and we'll try to help. This is our first webinar, so bear with us if we have any technical difficulties. I apologize. Zoom is a friend, but a new friend, so we're still acclimating. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. Okay, so welcome to our webinar, Go Water Wise and Save. We want to encourage you to find all of the water saving options that are available to you. And welcome. Thank you. Uh-oh, it looks like we're having a little bit of a hiccup here with my screen, so bear with me. Okay, so some housekeeping. Everyone who's an attendee, you're in listen only mode. Please use the chat feature if you need anything. And throughout, pose your questions in the chat feature. We are going to answer most of the questions at the end, but if we see something that we can go ahead and answer, we will. We are going to be sharing this on Facebook Live, so I wanted to let you guys know that before I started doing that. So we are officially in 3, 2, 1, sharing. Now sharing on Facebook Live. So if for some reason you do get disconnected through Zoom, you can head on over to Facebook Live and we should be able to connect with you there. All right. Okay. So we are live. And we're going to have a poll to kick things off. We want to see who our audience is. So here's our first poll. Those of you on Facebook Live will not be able to see the poll. Those of you on the phone call, also no polling capabilities there, but for the majority of you who are on Zoom, it looks like we've got one person who's been able to answer so far. So we're going to give it a minute or two for people to poke around and see the poll questions. Question number 1, what category do you fall into? So again, we're just trying to get a sense of who's here. Do we have single family, homeowners, businesses, HOA board members or landscape committee members, property managers, landscape designers, etc. If you're in that other category, why don't you go over to the chat box and let us know who you are so we can hopefully better tailor this to you. Second question, have you attended one of our workshops in the past? And then the last question, have you ever gotten an incentive or rebate check from Desert Water Agency? So we're going to give it about 10 more seconds here, and then we're going to close the poll. So if you can find that and get your answer in, great. If you can't, no worries, no pressure. We will go over the results with everybody. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, we're going to close the poll. Okay, so most of the people joining are single-family homeowners. It looks like we've got lots of HOA folks as well, which is wonderful, and a couple landscape designers. We've got some friends from neighboring water agencies, CVWD and MSWD, so thank you guys for joining. We really appreciate it. Any of our landscapers, if you are attending today, please write the name of your landscape design or landscape company in the chat box and your name, and we will reach out to you if you provide us with an email to get your details to put on our landscaper list that we keep on our website. And that list is available to customers and people who are trying to figure out perhaps who to use for landscaping in the future. So it's a good tool for them. We can't make a recommendation on a company, but we can tell people, well, Sergio from FS Landscaping or Larry from Kirkpatrick Landscaping attended the webinar and is informed about our programs. And then in terms of the, have you ever gotten an incentive check in the past? It looks like we got a mixed, no, not yet was the overwhelming answer. So that's good. That means we've got a lot of potential here. Lots of people that have the opportunity to take advantage of these programs going forward. So you guys can see those results for yourselves, and then we're going to go ahead and move on forward. If you're a landscaper, just again, make sure you go to that chat box so that we can include you on our list. Okay. All right, so now that we're all warmed up and welcomed and we've had that little icebreaker, we wanted to connect with you on the agenda for today. First off, we want to talk to you about COVID-19 because that is top of mind for everyone, and we understand that it's a big part of your lives, and you may be curious as to how it's affecting Desert Water Agency. Then we're going to get into the meat of it, our incentive programs, go over some conservation highlights, and at the end we'll do some Q&A. So who is Desert Water Agency? For those of you that don't know, we are, I put sustainability right at the top because I like to say that sustainability is our middle name. We were founded to, back in 1961, to manage water in the Coachella Valley, to import water from the Sierra Nevadas, where we have water rights. We do have lots of groundwater beneath our feet, but every unit or ounce or cup of groundwater we pump out, we want to try and put back in so that it's here for future generations long after us. That's what the word sustainability means to me. So I'm very fortunate that that's part of my job here as the Outreach and Conservation Manager. So we are a public agency, special district. We have a board of 5 elected officials. So anyone within our boundary gets to vote, and those voted members, community members, serve to give us guidance and direction, things that we should pursue, high-level goals. And they're a great bunch of people. We're very fortunate to work with them, and they've been a great source of direction and comfort for us during this crisis as well. So we not only do we do water management, which I mentioned, bringing water in from other places, and you know, when we bring it in, we put it into ponds and it soaks into the ground. We actually just published a great video about that. If you're curious, you can go on our Facebook page and learn a little bit more about that. But we also provide tap water in Palm Springs and 2 portions of Cathedral City. So our rebates are available to anyone within our boundary. So, our COVID-19 response. Desert Water Agency personnel are disaster service workers. So that means that the governor's orders to stay at home do not apply to our personnel, though many of us are working from home, like me, if we can. I'm not actually outside of our sign off of Gene Autry. I'm just sparing you from the blinds and curtains behind me here with our creative background. Which is also why I'm able to not wear a mask, because I'm at home. We do have people that are out doing work. As you can see, folks are wearing masks and they're observing distancing protocol, but the tap water has to keep flowing. It's, the tap water's safe, it's reliable, it's there for you, and it takes our team to do it. Our lobby is closed, but the team's here to help. So please call, email. The only thing we can't do are, in-person meetings, if you will. We are still doing inspections. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We're calling them no contact inspections. You can see a photo of me there doing one with gloves and a scarf wrapped around my face. And it's just our pivot to make sure that we can still get these checks out to people who really need them in a time like this. So we didn't want to cut off this financial resource, plus the water savings is important to us today and in the future. Crews are out there, so you'll see DWA trucks rolling around. They're working on emergency repairs, but also preventative maintenance. We have a lot of plastic water service lines that were put in back in the 80s, and we're seeing a lot of failures. So we are going through neighborhoods and trying to eradicate those from our system. So that's some of what we've been doing. We've been working to notify folks. And because, being out of water right now is very challenging because you're cleaning a lot, washing your hands a lot. And if anyone's going to be shut off for a temporary period for any sort of construction, we want to make sure that they know about it so they can fill a bucket ahead of time. So we appreciate the community's flexibility in allowing us to keep doing our work. And again, we're here if you need anything. And keep in mind that there are financial resources if you need them. We don't have them up on the slide. Should have thought of that. But let me see if I can type a message in the chat here to everybody. All panelists and attendees. I'm going to type in our resource. If you need financial assistance, please check out this page. Anyone financially affected by COVID is eligible to apply for a credit. This fund is put together from Desert Water Agency employees, vendors, the agency chips in some money, and then United Way manages the fund for us. So please go ahead and take advantage of that if you need it. Okay, on to the meat of why we're all here today. Incentives. They're available now. Anyone within our boundary, as we mentioned, you don't need a Desert Water Agency account number. So even if Desert Water Agency serves your condo association, but you don't have a water meter, it's the HOA that does, that's okay. You're still welcome to apply for any of our programs. Grass removal program. This is the big meaty program for us that has the most administration. So it's also the one that people tend to be most familiar with. We're presently offering $2 a square foot for front yards, backyards, side yards that have grass. Same with HOAs, commercial properties. Basically anywhere that you've got grass, we'll pay you $2 a square foot to remove it, unless you're a school or the city of Palm Springs. They are eligible for $3 per square foot. So that is something we've been pushing is projects with the city of Palm Springs. We are looking at a demonstration garden at the Palm Springs airport, and we're really hopeful that we'll get some grant funding and the project can still continue even with all of the financial difficulties the city will be facing with COVID-19. We have a landscape design incentive. It's a new pilot program. It is available for residential properties only. $500 maximum incentive, front yards only. Basically, when you apply for the grass removal incentive, if you don't have a plan done already, the application will offer this incentive for you. If you've already done a plan and you click that you've already done a plan, it will not tell you about this incentive, because the idea is we don't want to necessarily reimburse you if you've already done something. We want to encourage people to consider a landscape design if they haven't already. And again, this is just a pilot. We're going to see how it goes. It may not be something we continue on to next year. So if you're on the fence about applying and you do want some help with landscape design, this might be a good time to take advantage of that. So again, you know, this program is really meant to be an incentive, not a reward. So if you took out your grass a year ago, 6 months ago, two days ago, we can't give you money for that. We need to have the grass in place when the project's approved. We come out and photograph and measure. So we use measurements via Google Earth, and then we also come out and you'll usually see us with a handy dandy measuring wheel and taking some measurements to confirm that. And it's very difficult because if you already have desert landscaping, we don't know where it was previously. So that is why you have to have grass in place at the time. Dead grass is okay. You know, if it's yellow, if it's brown, we don't mind, as long as it's relatively thick and not just bare dirt with some weeds. This is a photo from an inspection we had. You know, we get things like this, unfortunately, on a fairly regular basis. So please don't apply if you just have dirt. I'm sorry, the program's not available to you at this time, but you know, the whole point of the program is to save water. And if you're going from bare dirt to desert landscape, you're not saving water. It's if you're going to grass to desert landscape that you're saving water. Artificial turf is okay. You don't have to go with desert landscape. That's something that we've allowed over the past 3 or 4 years now, but initially was not allowed. So we always like to remind people that that's something that our program accommodates. In terms of what you need, we ask that you submit square footage. We will measure, but you know, we want to know how much you're asking for funding. If your area is more than 4 feet wide in any area, so let's say you've got a big curvy patch, but at the widest it's 6 feet, you would still have to go ahead and put plants and trees somewhere in there. But if you're doing a very narrow strip that throughout is, you know, 3.5 feet, then you don't have to. You could just put gravel or some kind of ground cover in there. We require low flow irrigation because, again, the goal is to save water, 20 gallons per hour or less, and we'll show you some images later. If you are keeping grass, which many people do, they'll leave a grass area and then put some desert landscaping, usually around the edges. We do ask that you put all the desert landscaping on a separate valve. Again, this helps save water and make sure you're not overwatering your desert landscaping. We will need before and after photos. A cell phone photo works just fine. You can take a photo and email it with your application. We'll go through the application process a little bit later. And then a W-9, it's a tax form. So unfortunately, for some reason, the government classifies these rebates as taxable income. We're working with Congress. Obviously, right now, they're very, very busy with other things. But we've been working for several years to try and get tax exempt status for these rebates. But in the meantime, we are legally required to issue 1099s, which means we need a W-9. So keep that in mind. We also need paid invoices for larger projects. If you are with a homeowners association, we will need those paid invoices. Same for any commercial project, anything more than about 2,500 square feet. Here are those photos that I mentioned of appropriate irrigation. You know, you can have little drip. You can have these fixed head bubblers, 0.33 gallons per minute or less. We do not allow for sprinklers in the converted area. So if you have some shrubs remaining and they're currently watered by sprinklers, they've got to go, and you cannot use these adjustable head bubblers, primarily because people dial them up in summer and then forget to dial them back down ever again, or in winter. And oftentimes the heat can kind of cause them to creep open a little bit more as well. Ground cover. So you can't just remove your grass and then give us a call and tell us you're done. We actually have to see the finished product. We need some sort of ground cover so that we know you're not just going to sprinkle grass seed back down and have a grass yard again. So that's why dirt alone isn't acceptable. We don't mind, you know, whatever kind of ground cover you want. You know, not a lot of people over here use mulch or wood chips, but that's certainly an option if you'd like to. Ungrouted pavers also allowed. You do not have to install weed barrier, a smart controller, or a pressure regulator and filter. The reason that we remind you of this is because we used to require these things. It's not to say that these things are bad and that's why we don't require them. It's just that, you know, we wanted to make the program as simple as possible, and it was getting pretty complicated for people, and they would fail inspections and we'd have to go back out. So we tried to make it easy. Smart controller is still a great way to go. We'll talk a little bit later about that because we have a separate incentive program for that you can take advantage of entirely separate or at the same time as your grass rebate. And then a pressure regulator and filter. This is definitely something that is recommended. Regulating pressure on your irrigation lines is really important. And then the filter is hugely important to keeping out little bits of sand and grit so that your drip system doesn't get all clogged up. We do come out for a pre-conversion inspection, which is before you remove the grass. And then we come out again at the end of your project to make sure that the irrigation's correct and to make sure that you actually took the grass out. Because we're working with grant dollars from the state and maybe even federal dollars soon, hopefully, we have to do a lot of verification. So people always say, well, can't you just take a photo from me? And that's not acceptable for our program. We have to have something that is by Desert Water Agency staff with, you know, date, timestamp information. So the timeline, once you complete or once you're approved for your project, you have 90 days to complete it. The same is true for large scale projects. You have 180 days after you're approved for those. And in terms of once you hit your deadline, you can request an extension. They're not guaranteed. They're subject to staff discretion. Right now, it also really depends on the time of year, how close we are to the end of our fiscal year and what our next fiscal year budget looks like for grass removal. So if you apply right now, we will not likely grant you an extension. So if you think it's going to take you more than 90 days, you may want to wait until the next round, which will start in the summer. Rebate checks take us a little while. So once you're approved, it's about 45 days after that that you should get your check in the mail. And to apply for this incentive or any other, dwa.org/save. So it's time for poll number 2. We want to make sure that you guys can still engage with us here, and we're going to throw up that poll. So go ahead, I'm going to give you guys about a minute to fill it out, just 3 questions. So the question number 1, what is your landscape like presently? Question number 2, do you plan to apply for an incentive? So if you're part of an HOA or a landscaper and you have a client that intends to apply, that counts for you as well. For those of you in the other category, you can either skip that one or put no. And then last question is just kind of fun. What do people prefer the look of, artificial turf or desert landscaping? The reason we asked that one actually is because this year we got a big influx of artificial turf. In the past, it wasn't something we saw all that often. We saw it maybe 10% of the time. Excuse the interruption there. But now we're seeing it a lot. We have about I'd say about a quarter to a third of our projects this year have been desert landscaping, or I'm sorry, artificial turf. Okay, so we're going to end that poll and share those results. So what is your landscape like now? And it seems like for most they've got a mix, some grass, some desert landscaping. I'm imagining some people probably have one yard, maybe the front yard is desert landscape, maybe the artificial in the front or in the back, maybe some grass in the back. You know, there's all sorts of different mix, but we do have, it looks like about 20% of people, that's great, that are already all water wise. Do people plan to apply? It looks like some people immediately, and then most of the people within the next year. That's good. We don't know what our budget is for next year. That's the only thing that I would caution you, is that hasn't been set in stone yet. I imagine this program will still be funded at a fairly good level, but that's not my decision to make. Certainly I'll lobby for it on your behalf, and because we really like getting these things done. And then 95% of people said desert landscaping, that's the look that they like. And, you know, we hear a lot of that from realtors, HOAs, you know, even just homeowners. People seem to find it to be a really great alternative. It's lower maintenance than grass, not quite as low maintenance as artificial turf, but it makes it feel like we're in the desert, which we are. Okay, moving on. Thanks for your participation. Smart controllers. Okay, so these devices are something that you can pick up at Home Depot, Lowe's, Ewing Irrigation, Smith Irrigation, pretty much any irrigation supply store online. Very easy to order directly from the manufacturers or even from Amazon. So you can still get these devices now. People are still ordering them even under these stay-at-home circumstances. And they're fairly easy to install. So if your concern was about having someone come to your home, you don't have to worry about that necessarily. If you are kind of handy, there are lots of YouTube videos, and a lot of them come with really great instructions. So the requirements: the controller has to have cellular, Wi-Fi, weather data, or a weather sensor. And it must have rain shutoff capability. So we want to make sure that when we get our nice desert storms that we are not watering on top of that. And then these models are great. A lot of them have apps that you can control. I know we have a lot of seasonal residents. So we want to make sure that those people, while they're away, can get alerted to, you know, any issues or change their irrigation settings from wherever they happen to be. We will rebate up to $150 for the device itself. And then if you do need help getting it professionally installed, we'll give you up to $100 for that. And there are also rebates for HOAs, large properties, businesses. The device we will rebate, or devices, up to $2,500. So it could be one device that's $2,500 or three devices that are all under $2,500 combined. But if you have two $2,500 devices in your commercial entity, we will only rebate up to $2,500 total at this time. And then for professional install and commercial, up to $750. So we are looking at maybe changing that commercial program a little bit, because it's a little bit difficult when you have an HOA that is maybe an acre versus one that's on 15 acres. So we just want to make sure that there are ways for people, or HOAs of all shapes and sizes, to save and have those incentives. So if you have any ideas on that, please feel free to either email us or even share it in the chat box if you'd like. We also have a nozzle or irrigation head incentive. The way that this works is you purchase the nozzles, and we give you $5 per nozzle plus $2 per nozzle for installation. and the caps are presently $700 for residential, and that means 100 nozzles, and for commercial, 7,000 or 1,000 nozzles. And for commercial, we do have a program where if you have a very large HOA, we have a formula where we will take your acreage and plug it in, and it will tell us if you should get more than 1,000 nozzles if you request more. So keep that in mind. The nozzles that are approved are rotators. So if you can see my mouse here, these ones are the ones that rotate. They put out larger streams and they put out water more slowly. So they're much better for watering in the wind, which I know much of the north end of town, and heck, even on the south end of town, it gets quite windy a lot of the time. So those are an effective tool for that. They're also just generally more effective than the spray nozzles, which are what you see over here. So these are the different kinds. You know, if you have another kind you'd like to use that's not on our list, just let us know. We'll take a look at the specs and we're happy to look. We also have the non-adjustable pressure compensating bubblers. It's a mouthful, I know, but these are basically the alternatives to the ones that we showed earlier that have the screw top. So we don't want those screw top ones, and these are the alternative to that. And they're usually 0.25 gallons per minute. Now we are on to our newest. This is the washing machine incentive. It's only for residential folks right now. We are looking into doing some more expansive commercial rebates and expect that washing machines may be a component of that. But if you have a condo complex that has 5 or 6 units and you all share a washing machine, we'll definitely work with you on something like that. We basically will accept any Energy Star certified model. I know Energy Star is for energy efficiency, but all of the Energy Star approved models have a water factor of 4.5 or less. So that's why we look to the Energy Star label. Plus it's much easier for people than to tell them a water factor of 4.5. It involves a lot of calculations based on the size of the washer and the load capacity, and it's a lot of math. So we wanted to spare you guys and ourselves from that. So look for that Energy Star certification. Usually it's on the washer itself, but if not, it's probably on the box. You can also look at energystar.gov. Be very careful to enter the whole item number, because sometimes at the end there'll be like a DC or a BC, and the difference between those two could be that one is Energy Star certified and the other is not. And we will only rebate the ones that are Energy Star certified. So take a peek at that. $250 per washer and 1 washer per home. That's pretty generous. Most of these washers we've seen coming through cost about $600, so 250 is a good share of that. We wanted to make it such that the more efficient washer then became more appealing than a standard washer. So, you know, maybe a standard washer costs $300, and with this rebate, like I said, $600, you know, you can get it down to just a little bit higher than the normal washer, plus you're saving water and you're saving energy. So those are long-term cost savings. So this is a program that's new to this year. We're hoping to see it continue into the future, but we're not sure that it will. And again, it's an incentive. It's not retroactive. So if you bought one of these back in August of last year, we cannot rebate you for it. But, you know, if you bought one in December, we'll be flexible. Typically we ask for 30 days, but we have some funding available still. So we want to make sure that we can help. If you've bought it recently, we can help you with that. But hopefully you haven't bought one yet, and we can encourage you to buy one with this program. Toilets for businesses. We used to have a residential program for toilets. It was really popular, but the problem with that is the fact that almost any toilet you buy now is efficient. So we weren't really capturing any water savings from that. So what we did is we transitioned to a business program. So we have incentives available, and businesses can take advantage of the savings. And what we've seen is that businesses won't really do a large scale conversion unless there's an incentive associated with it. So for example, we worked with Motel 6 this past year, and they replaced about 100 toilets all at once. So that's a huge water savings, and they have a lot of people who are coming in and using those toilets. I mean, maybe not so much right now, but the idea is that hotels are very high traffic, generally high traffic water use for their facilities. So 10 toilet minimum up to 100 and $100 per toilet if you know any businesses that may take advantage of that. So we've talked about all of these incentives, but we really haven't talked about how to do it. So you purchase the qualifying product. You may want to check with us to make sure there's funding left, especially this time in the year. Our fiscal year starts on July 1. So we are toward the end of the fiscal year. And that means some of our rebates or incentives are a little bit low on funding. But the good news is there's still funding available for all of them right now. I would say the ones that are closest to being expended are grass removal. So if you are looking into doing that, it would be good to do it now versus a month from now. So purchase the qualifying product, get your receipt, and if you have it professionally installed, we'll need that, if not a photo, and then complete the application online. I have the URL there for you, but I'll show you some screenshots so you get a feel for it. So when you go to that URL, dwa.org/save, this is what you'll see. And you can click on whichever one you're interested in learning more about or whichever one you're ready to apply for. So let's say we're doing a smart controller. I click on that and this is what we see. It gives you all of the program details, many of which we've just discussed. And then there's a little message here. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, there will be a delay in processing paper applications. This online portal is a great way to submit your application always, but especially now. We are still going into the office a couple times a week to check for paper applications, but it's certainly not going to be the same turnaround time as if you just submit it online. So you hit start application, and then there's a little reminder here. This is what you'll need to finish the incentive application. So if you don't have those things ready, you can come back and do it later. If you've got them all, you can hit I'm ready, let's go. And then this will pop up. It'll allow you to apply a message at the top. You can apply for more than one rebate at a time so that you don't have to enter your information multiple times. So I've typed in my information here. It takes about a minute, very quick. And then you're on to the next phase where in this iteration, you're doing a smart controller. So I put in just a model here. Orbit Beehive is a pretty popular one that we get. And you upload a receipt and you upload a photo of your installed device. Or if you have it professionally installed, see installation type there. I have it as self, but you could change that to professional and then upload the invoice, because we will reimburse for that. So if you don't upload an invoice, we can't reimburse you. And then you can either submit the application or add another device. Let's say that you've submitted a smart controller, but you also want to add a soil moisture meter, or you have the controller, but you have a weather station to add as well. This is where you would do that, add another device. And then you would basically go through the same step as before, where you put in the device, how much you paid for it, the invoice for that, and then you hit complete. So that'll show you, in this case, it's as if I've applied for 2 Orbit Beehive smart controllers. Let's say I needed one in my front yard and one in my backyard. That's how I put those in. And then it also shows me I can apply now for all these other rebates. So we try to make it easy, simple, and we want to ask you if we were successful in that. So let's see. I'm going to throw up a poll here and give you guys a minute to look at those questions. Uploads, we got a question. What kind of format? PDF, JPEG, PNG. We're pretty flexible with file type. You can even upload Word, though we typically will not accept any sort of invoice or receipt as a Word document because you could alter it. So, but if you, for some reason, are having trouble with the photo and you have to throw it in a Word document and upload it, fine, that works. You know, pretty much any type of file that you have. I don't know if we take MOV, like movie clip files, but we never ask for anything that's like you don't need to take a video of your yard or anything like that. Let me see, gonna give everyone, it looks like about 63% of people have responded to the poll. I'm gonna give people another minute or two and scroll through the questions here and see if there's anything right now. It's not too specific. Yeah, I got a question about someone looking to get creative with HOA toilets. Yeah, unfortunately, we, like I said, because of the fact that pretty much any toilet you buy now meets the energy, or not the energy, the water sense certification is low flow, 1.28 gallons per flush or less. We're not doing it for residential. It's really just for commercial settings, mainly hotels. Okay, so we're gonna stop polling here and share the results with you. How difficult does the application process seem? So this is really good news. Most people can do it on their own, and some people could get through it with help. Just know that the help doesn't have to be from someone in your household. You can always give us a call. We can even set up something like this, a Zoom session, and we can share your screen and try and get you through it. We're here to help. We want to make sure you save the water. Which program do you think is most popular? Grass removal? You know what? It's funny that no one said washing machines. That's our new program. So we expected it to have a lot of interest at first, but all year round, since we've started it, we've been getting a lot of interest in that. Sprinklers. Okay, we'll show you the stats in a minute. And then would you attend another webinar in the future? Oh, yay, 90%. Okay, so my ask of you is that you type in a topic that you would like to see us cover, because we want to do something that you would like to come back for. So let us know in the chat box what type of topic you would like to see for a future webinar. Okay, that's our last poll, by the way. So this year for grass removal, we've removed about 100,000 square feet for residential and about 200,000 square feet for HOA and businesses. Overwhelmingly, it's homeowners associations, though we do have a couple hotels that took advantage of it on the business side, a couple commercial properties. Smart controllers, we've done 84 of those, so not terribly popular, but not too bad. 97 washers and 3,195 sprinkler nozzles. That may seem like a ton, like, oh my gosh, you're bombarded. But remember, a lot of nozzles come in for one single project. So, you know, one HOA could be 1,000 nozzles. So we tend to get, you know, anywhere from, most of the nozzles, I would say, are commercial. So those are usually larger numbers, maybe a couple hundred at a time. But we're hopeful that since we still have budget remaining in all of these categories, that we can get going. So we also wanted to mention that we have conservation consults available. So this lovely photo is pre-COVID, so you'll see that Vicki here on our team is not wearing a mask. We are definitely wearing masks and gloves now. But we are trying to do the consults by phone or video, if at all possible. It's probably more comfortable for you guys and probably more comfortable for our team as well. So we just want to make sure that we use technology to our advantage during this time. It's a free service. We will come out and, you know, find easy, low-hanging fruit, things that you could change maybe with a few pushes of a button and start saving that day. A lot of times they are things, though, that you may have to make an investment in. You have to consider changing out equipment or changing your landscape. You know, you have a highly sloped area with sprinklers, not the best idea. But we'd be happy to take a look virtually at your facility right now, or perhaps in the near future in person. You can sign up for the conservation consults by emailing us. I'm going to throw our email up at the end of the webinar, so go ahead and take that down when you see it, and just put conservation consult in the subject line, and we'll try and get you scheduled as soon as possible. FaceTime would be great. I'm also seeing some questions pop in, so I'm excited because it's time to dig into those soon. But lastly, before we go, I know that you have a lot of people have kids at home right now struggling with trying to keep up to speed with virtual curriculum, and teachers that are grappling. And if you have any kids in your life and think that learning about water is important, which you're on this webinar, so I think you do, you can share our resource with them, dwa.org/learn. We have lots of resources, things to not only keep them busy, but keep them informed about our most precious resource. So be sure to check that out. And with that, we will move into the question time. So while we're taking questions, I'm going to leave this page up momentarily, and then I'm going to switch out to our contact information so that you can take that down. So I'm going to look here. I've got a list of questions. So is grass removal and incentive just a one-time thing? No. So if you have grass, we will pay to remove it. We won't pay to remove the same area more than once. So if you had grass, took it out, put some gravel, and then decide, I want grass again, we're not going to pay you to remove grass in the same location. But if you have grass in the front yard and we gave you an incentive for that, and then you want to do your side yard or your backyard, yes. Same for HOAs. If you do the area by your front sign and then you decide to do some internal areas, yes. We try to do one per fiscal year, so that we streamline our staff resources and your time. And but you know, we're all about saving water, and if it takes us being a little bit flexible and doing maybe 2 in a year, we can do that too. So that's a great question. Let me scroll through here and see. We've got a question on the landscape design program from a landscape designer, which makes sense. We don't have a lot of info on that, other than it's a pilot program, so it's only available temporarily, probably until the end of this fiscal year. It has to be done by a professional landscape, either landscaper or landscape designer, and it can be a little bit informal. It doesn't have to be a big formal plan, but it can't be a sketch on the back of a bar napkin. So we kind of have a sniff test with that one. You know, if you have something that's done out on, you know, several sheets of graph paper that is very, you know, nicely done and has irrigation specs or even just plant recommendations, as long as you have an invoice from a professional landscaper and it seems fair, you know, $500 for that amount of work, then we'll approve it. But that's why we're testing it out, is to work out those kind of kinks. So I got a question about vegetables, herbs, citrus trees are eligible as ground cover. So we don't consider plants as ground cover. Those are plant materials, but yeah, any vegetables, herbs, citrus trees, and that's a great thing. A lot of people right now want to be more self-sufficient with their food because they don't want to head to the grocery store. And I don't blame them. So yes, any type of edible gardening is still counts. Any possibility for a water rate reduction? So, you know, that's not something that I've heard floated. But again, we do have that resource available to get financial assistance right now. And I will even type that in the chat again because I think it's that important. dwa.org/H2O. So please take advantage of that if you can. The agency was looking to increase the rates in July. That was part of a 5-year plan. It's on the schedule. I don't know that that'll happen. It's something our board of directors will have to weigh very carefully. You know, they're your representatives and they're here to think about big implications and, you know, our infrastructure and making sure we're adequately funded. And so it's a big decision, but we also, it's very apparent to all of us at the agency, staff, board, everybody that the community is hurting right now. So they stepped up immediately and said, we are not shutting anyone's water off for non-payment. So that was a 60-day order that started on March 16th. So, or March 17th through May 16th. So during that period of time, at least, there will be no water shutoffs, no late fees, no payment processing fees. Okay, I'm gonna scroll through here. See if there are any other good questions. So share high water use HOAs. So no, we are not going to share high water use HOAs. We don't like to share customer data. It's, you know, it's not a good way to serve your customers by sharing their private information. So we do reach out to high use HOAs and high use accounts in general to try and assist them with these incentives. And I see that that question came from a landscaper. I would encourage you, you know, any large HOA, I've found that those who aren't the biggest users are the ones who are most eager to save, you know, the ones that are progressive. But we try to get the low-hanging fruit too, but we can't do that by sharing private customer data. Let's see, any other questions here? Oh, we have someone who is part of a big HOA conversion. That's awesome. How do you sign up for conservation consults? We talked about that. Okay, it looks like we've got our HOAs available to use the assistance funds. You know, it's only, so it's up to $100 in bill credits a year. I don't see why not. I'll have to talk to United Way of the Desert about it because they manage the fund. But it makes sense that commercial accounts would need help right now. So that's definitely something that I will do when we are finished with this webinar. All right, any last minute questions? I'm looking at my phone to see if any questions came through from Facebook Live. We'll give you one more minute to perhaps throw some questions in here. Okay. Well, thank you for attending, taking time out of your day and learning more about water conservation. We really appreciate it, and we hope to have new presentations for you in the future. So stay tuned for that, and if you follow us on social media, that's a great way to stay connected, or you can go ahead and hit dwa.org/subscribe. That'll keep you up to date with our alerts. So please stay healthy and well and sane out there. I know it's a very trying time for many of you, and if there's a way that we can help, you know, if you just want to call and say hello, I know that the folks on my team would be happy to hear from you guys. So thank you very much. And again, our personal or direct emails and extensions are here. Even though we're not in the office, we get our office phones. You can't see it because of my virtual background here, but our office phones forward to our cell phones. So we're always available, and look forward to serving you at this time and always. So with that, we are going to stop recording here and see you next time.